Most people, most champions do not have something that you do not have. They lack something that you have. For a champion in the physical realm, a lot of times it's they don't have an off switch. They just keep going. And so to the same degree, you probably do things every single day that you should not be doing. And so what I want to introduce to you is a concept of the anti-routine as the most productive routine that is humanly possible for you to accomplish what you want. Number one is obviously just shifting the perspective of I need to do more things and I need to add more things to my routine, when in fact you need to stop doing things that you're currently doing. All that remains is the work to be done. Priorities mean two things cannot be equally important. When you work on something, if I spend 30 minutes on both things and I say this one's more important than this one, I can say that, but that's not reality because I basically just said they were both important, which means neither of them are, which is why most people cannot get done because they cannot say no. You need to have a routine of saying no, an anti-routine, and that is the thing that's going to yield those outsized returns on productivity. You can't do two things with different levels of importance. It's either important or it's not important. So if you say this is the priority, then it means you do not do other things besides that thing. That is how it is a priority. That is how you literally prioritize.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I was making $300 a month. I quit on my business partner, and the thing that saved me was studying the stories of super successful entrepreneurs. So I hope that this story today helps give you the motivation you need because I still need it too myself.
So today, if you're feeling lost, watch this video to change your future. Enjoy. Rule number 2 is develop an exceptional attitude with Bob Proctor.
How would you like a guaranteed, 100% guaranteed way of winning at anything in life? Well, you know, I can give it to you. And it's all wrapped up in a word. Earl Nightingale said it was the most important word in the English language or any other language as far as that goes, and it's attitude. Do you know, I don't think most people really understand what attitude is. Now, I have learned it, and I've learned it well. Because I had one of the greatest teachers in the world teach it to me, and that was Earl Nightingale. I spent 5 years working with him. It was just a wonderful experience. I'm going to put a drawing up here, and I want you to pay real close attention to this drawing. We'll let this drawing represent you. Now, the big part of the drawing is your mind. And the bottom part, of course, is the body. But we're going to take the mind and we're going to break it into two parts. We'll say the top half is the conscious mind, and the bottom half is the subconscious mind. And of course, the instrument that does all the work is the body. Attitude takes in all three parts. Now let's really get into this and pay attention. If you watch this 1,000 times, I guarantee you, your attitude will always be pretty good. And that's really what you want. So let's stop and think. There is an absolute power flowing to and through us. This power can be photographed. It's pure unadulterated spirit. It's flowing into our conscious mind, and we create thoughts. We literally create them. Or we can pick them up from outside sources. I choose to pick my own, choose my own thoughts. Now, when you entertain thoughts, you do two things with them. You impress them upon your subconscious, but you also send those thoughts out into the world. That's right. You can pick up another person's thoughts. And the thoughts that you impress turn into feelings. Now, those feelings are not only affecting the body, they're expressed out into the world. So you send your feelings out into the world. If another person's feeling bad and you're with them, you'll pick it up. Now, what's impressed upon the body is expressed. The body moves into action and produces the results. So let's take a look here. 1, 2, 3. Your thought is your position as bearing, as indicating thoughts, feelings, and actions. It's not just the way you think. It's not just the way you feel. It's not just the way you act. It's the composite of all three. Your thoughts cause your feelings. Your feelings are expressed in actions, and it's that expression that dictates results. Do you know your attitude determines what you attract to you? I don't care what it's about. You can blame other people. You can blame conditions or circumstance. You can blame the government. It won't do you any good until you fully understand that your life is a reflection of your attitude. you're going to have a problem. Pick the right attitude. Choose good thoughts. Turn them into good feelings. Have good actions. And you're going to express that. That's what the world will send back to you. Attitude is our position or bearing, is indicating thoughts, feelings, and action. Watch this often, and then compare it in life. You'll find out it works, like unadulterated magic.
Rule number 3 is learn from suffering with Tom Bilyeu.
Why should I take steps to learn from my own suffering when it is so unpleasant? This one is very easy to answer. And the reason that you want to learn from your suffering is because if you don't, you're going to repeat your suffering. And if it is unpleasant the first time, you can imagine how deeply unpleasant it gets over time, because let me tell you how the human mind works. Anything that you do a lot becomes easier, and it goes into what's called the default mode network. The default mode network is the part of the brain that you access when you're daydreaming or when you're driving to work and you get there and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, how did I get here? I wasn't even paying attention. And the way that you get there is because that's something that you've done repetitively. It's actually been hardwired. It's been made more calorically efficient. So the brain actually wraps these myelin sheaths around these connection points so that the impulses travel more efficiently. And then by moving it into the default mode network, by hardwiring it, now it becomes literally the default thing that you think. So if you repeat that suffering and you make the same mistakes over and over and over, and you keep doing the things that lead to your suffering, then that suffering becomes the easiest thing to do. Versus learning from your suffering, where in a very finite period of time, you're going to have to stare very nakedly at it. You're going to have to lean into it. You're going to have to take responsibility, even if it truly is somebody or something else's fault. By giving the power over to them, you will end up in that loop where you're just being victimized over and over and over, not realizing that you can take control of that situation and get out of that victimization pattern because you have the agency to change something and get a different result. And once you change something and start getting a different result, now you're putting that skill set to use that you got by reflecting on where you went wrong, what you could control. Again, even when you truly have been victimized. You do not have to play the victim, and you certainly don't have to repeat that pattern. So by taking this very finite time, looking very concretely at what the exact problem is, what you could have done differently, taking that responsibility, taking that power back, that's really what you're doing when you're taking responsibility. You're taking the power. Now, when you have the power, you're able to make a choice in the future that brings you better results. And therefore, you don't end up living in that loop of repeating that problem. And in avoiding the repeating of the problem and repeating the suffering, you don't get that hardwiring in your brain. That pattern does not go to the default mode network. And therefore, it isn't the easiest thing for you to think. And once you break that pattern and let those old things atrophy by taking the time to actually figure out what you need to change, now you can create forward momentum in your life. And now figuring out what you need to do to change, now acquiring new skills, those are the things that get moved to the default mode network. And now suddenly when you encounter a problem, the solution is the thing that comes to your mind because you've reinforced that over and over and over. You constantly are claiming your power. You are constantly looking at the things that you need to do differently in order to get a different result. And you are constantly executing against that. And that becomes that loop. And I can't tell you how much in the beginning, when I started my growth mindset journey, it was, oh God, it took so much time and energy to stop feeling sorry for myself, to stop feeling like a victim, to even remember to think about the fact that I could do something differently, that I could take responsibility. But as I started doing that and got these tremendous results out of my life, I started doing it more and more. And then it became my default answer, the very thing that I would click into as soon as I encountered a problem. It was like, word, if I take responsibility for this, if I claim back my power, now I'm going to be able to turn this into a skill set. And once I have a skill set, then I can do things that other people can't do. And I can change my life. And because that reinforces through so much positivity, and it's so useful and so effective, it will hardwire itself. And once you're there, you are well on your way to winning.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Rule number 4 is experiment with Joe Dispenza.
What are some of, in the formula, for example, the things that you teach to help take this incredible knowledge and put it into practice?
I think the most important part is to experiment, to be curious, to really see. Most people, they respond to their outer environment, and their outer environment is really controlling the way they think and feel. And I say, David, why are you upset today? It's because of that person or circumstance. What you're really saying is that some person or circumstance is actually controlling the way I feel and the way I think. Well, most of the time, our response to the environment because of the stress hormones actually weakens the organism. Yeah, that goes a step further, though. When you think about your problems, you produce the same stress response as if it was happening. Your body's so objective, it's believed it's living in that environmental state, and it's that constant attack and that response from the environment that begins to downregulate genes and weaken the immune system. So the fundamental question is, if you can turn on the stress response by thought alone, the long-term effects of those chemicals push the genetic buttons that create disease, then that means our thoughts can make us sick. So then if our thoughts can make us sick, is it possible that our thoughts can make us well? So when a person is less responsive, less of a victim to their environment's no longer controlling the way they think and feel, then the next fundamental question is, if I change the way I think and feel, should it change my environment? Now that's going from a victim in your life to being a creator of your life. And that's the experiment. And everybody should believe that they are the creator of their life. We teach people some basic tools. The formula really is about 10 years of research that we were able to say you could actually change your brain waves and create more order in your brain. The dissonance and incoherence that's created when we're under stress really causes the brain to compartmentalize and fire out of order. And so we've demystified the process after looking at thousands of scans to be able to say, you could actually make your brain work better, and you can do that in a very short amount of time. So in order to create a new future, to change something in your life, nothing changes in your life until you change. That's the story, right? So then the question is, okay, in order for me to create something new, I'm going to have to combine a clear intention. That's a function of the brain and the mind. That's a process that you can get better at. And you got to combine that with an elevated emotion. And that means then you can't wait for your healing to feel grateful. You can't wait for your new relationship to feel love. You can't wait for your wealth to feel abundance. That's the old model of reality of cause and effect. In fact, we're going to teach people actually how to feel the emotion before it happens. And when you combine that clear intention with an elevated emotion, that's going to require your heart to move into balance and move into order. And turns out that's a skill too that you can practice. So then when you combine those two elements, so that clear intention with the elevated emotion, and you can sustain that for a period of time, the coherence in the brain, the coherence in the heart actually act like a Wi-Fi signal. You're starting to put out a broadband spectrum of frequency and energy that causes you to feel connected to something. And now you're no longer trying to get something done or waiting for something in your outer world to change to take away the emptiness or lack you're feeling because you don't have the experience yet. If people can actually feel the feelings of the emotions before the experience happens, they wouldn't be looking for it because they would feel like it already happened, right? So we teach people how to sustain these states. And if they can, the side effect of that is that you start seeing synchronicities in your life, those serendipities, those coincidences, those opportunities that you're no longer going anywhere to get them. And you're not trying to control the outcome or force the outcome or fight for the outcome or predict the outcome or compete for it. That's when we're matter trying to change matter. When you synchronize your energy to a possibility in your life and you start seeing those synchronicities in your life, now, when you start seeing those opportunities occurring, you're just going to start paying attention to what you've been doing and do more of it. And you go then from being the victim of your life to being the creator of your life. And the cool part about it is you don't have to go anywhere to get it. Somehow, out of nowhere, it seems to come to you.
Rule number 5 is take a break with Brian Tracy.
Today, I want to talk to you about how to transform your life by taking a break at the right time. Sometimes the best thing that you can do is nothing at all. And what I mean by that is instead of immediately acting or responding to something, taking a breath or a minute to pause and to think can transform your life and help incorporate more mindfulness into your day-to-day life. For that reason, you'll make fewer mistakes, you'll get more done faster, and you won't have to go back and repeat it. It's easy to get caught up in the world around us with the seemingly endless task lists and projects to be completed daily. We have many conversations, make many decisions, and keep moving forward. This causes us to feel stressed and overwhelmed, and rarely leaves even a moment to absorb what's really going on. This can ultimately lead to feeling disconnected and out of control. However, taking time to pause, to take a break, your thoughts, your actions, your speech, etc., is an incredibly helpful tool to recentering yourself, regaining control, and getting back on track, stronger and better than ever. Here are 3 times to take a break in your life and help you to recenter to accomplish all of your goals. I personally use these tools in my own life to help me accomplish goals, and I've seen how much they have helped and transformed the lives of others as well. The first time to take a break is to pause before responding. There's a reason why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, is we should spend more time listening than we do speaking. You notice when someone is actually listening and paying attention to what you are saying, rather than just waiting for you to be finished so that they can jump in. When we are just waiting for our turn to talk, we don't pay attention to what the other person is saying. We don't absorb what the other person is meaning. We just want it to be quick to provide our own input. However, if we aren't listening and understanding what is being said, we may not be providing useful insights with our response. This can lead to miscommunication, misunderstanding, and a waste of everyone's time. It's astonishing throughout history how a miscomprehension of a word or phrase or something that someone said or didn't say has transformed the entire situation. The next time you have a conversation, really listen and absorb what the other person is saying. Reflect on their words and be conscious of what they are trying to convey to you. This is called active listening. Consider these questions. Why are they telling you this? What kind of response are they looking for to receive from you? Are they worried about your reaction? Taking a pause before you respond and considering your answers to those questions will give you time to formulate a mindful and helpful response rather than a quick reaction. The second time to take a break is to do so before making a big decision. We all get caught up in the excitement and anxiety associated with making a big decision. This can cause us to lose sight of the bigger picture. And while spontaneity and risk-taking can be useful in some decision-making, greatness does not come from impulsiveness or acting on a whim. That is why it is so important to give yourself a moment to pause and to reflect on the situation. This allows you to ensure that you are making a decision with a sound mind rather than reacting with emotion. When you have a big decision to make, take a pause and then think through the following questions. Have you done the necessary research on the choices? Have you considered all possible outcomes? Are you comfortable with the risk that you're willing to take? The third time to take a break is after a decision has been made or a conversation was had to reflect on any lessons learned. After having had an important conversation or having made a transformative decision, we usually find ourselves feeling relieved. The pressure of the situation has been eased and we can move on with our lives. Right? Not quite. Without taking a moment to pause and consider the implications of the situation, we can short-circuit our ability to grow. That's why it's very important to take a moment to reflect on our decisions and conversations after they've been had. Ask yourself these questions. What did you learn? How did this make you feel? What can you apply to your next decision or conversation that can make it better? These reflective moments following an important decision or conversation are opportunities for growth as a person and as a leader. Utilize them to continue your journey to achieving your goals and becoming the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. I promise that if you follow these steps and start taking more time to consider, you will see your life start to transform for the better. And if you're looking for a guide to help you to optimize your success and achieve your goals, check out my personal development guide. It will help you to take time off to identify areas of opportunity and to evaluate your goals effectively. This powerful personal development guide will act as a daily tool to help you to reach your goals faster.
And rule number 6, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is develop mental toughness with Eric Thomas.
Everybody wants to be a beast, y'all, until it's time to do what real beasts do. I'm just being real. This was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I want you to write down what you're going to have to do to go to beast mode in this industry. Because here's what I'm going to tell you. When you go beast mode, there are going to be certain things that happen for you don't happen for other people. Now, let me tell you, I had to go beast mode. We had to do a whole year of marketing. I've never done that before. I've never taken a year to do nothing. We had to market for an entire year, exhausting. So I had to travel everywhere to do podcasts. So I didn't want to do it because I had been traveling since I was 19. And I promised my wife when we hit 50, I wouldn't travel as much. So I'm already traveling as a speaker, so she didn't want me traveling as a speaker and doing free podcasts. Does that make sense? Now I gotta go tell my wife, I'm sorry, but I gotta go do podcasts. So everybody wants to be a beast until it's time to do what beasts do. If you become a beast in this industry, nothing or no one will stop you. The reason why a lot of you are not where you should be is because you're not in beast mode. And you need to go beast mode. How many of y'all ready to get what y'all desire? Let me see. How many of y'all deserve to get what you desire? Come on, how many of y'all families deserve to get it? All right, so once we go after this slide, we're not returning. We go in beast mode. Y'all ready? Come on, y'all ready? All right, let's get ready to take notes. Real beasts have mental toughness. This is where most people are divided. Mental toughness is the ability to resist, to manage, overcome doubt, overcome worries, overcome concerns, overcome circumstances that prevent most people from succeeding or performing under pressure. I want you to understand, every human being that is not successful versus every human being that's successful, the only difference between them is mental toughness. One group, when they come up against trials and tribulations, they shrink. One group of people, when they come up against a recession, they shrink. Do you know I started this book during COVID? You know I started the process of this book during COVID, and let me tell you why. Mental toughness. When COVID hit, I didn't look at COVID and go, woe is me. When COVID hit, I went, ooh, I got time now. I'm about to be off the road. Ooh, I ain't got to travel no more. I can write a book And if I sell 1 million copies of this book, I can make about 14, 15 million without having to do anything but get passive income. So while everybody is complaining about COVID, here's the chance for me to spend some time doing something I've never had time to do. And here's the time to go harder on my career and study more than I've ever studied. Mental toughness. Say it with me. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. This is what you're gonna need to get to the next level. So while everybody was crying and complaining, I was getting up working out for at least an hour and a half a day because I didn't want to catch COVID. I did more vitamin C. I should have opened up a vitamin C tablet company. I had more vitamin C I ever had in my life. I bought a Peloton bike. I bought a Peloton treadmill. I bought my wife an elliptical. We went to work in COVID. You know what? I never got COVID once in the whole time frame COVID. I never got COVID. I made up in my mind, okay, how do you get COVID? Okay, people. All right, stay away from people. No, can I be honest with you guys? I had less than 100 members in my church. COVID hit the month before. I had bought fancy cameras to put in my church. We had 50,000 people watching service during COVID. We only had 100 people in church before that. We went to a mega church and made over 7 figures. I started hiring full-time staff. We blew up in COVID. Why? Weak-minded people, no disrespect, they buckle under COVID. They complain during COVID. They look for every excuse during COVID. But mentally tough people, we saw the storm and we pulled out our surfboard and we began to surf on the waves that drown most people. I came out with a New York Times bestseller during COVID. That's what beast mode is. Beast mode is I will not stop when others stop. I will not quit when it gets hard. Beast mode is I will not complain. I will not worry. I will not fret. I will find a way when there is no way. I will make a door when there is no door. I will create a window when there is no window. I will create finance when there is no finance. I will find an opportunity when it doesn't exist. But I will not be defeated. Because I know what my desires are and I know what I deserve.
The Dallas Uber driver.
Oh.
So as somebody who has gotten into countless Ubers, and some small percentage of them know who I am, and then of course they start asking questions. Talk to me about chasing your dreams and this quote that you have that an aha moment does not necessarily lead to an aha life.
Yeah, the Uber driver in Dallas that's in this book. I get choked up when I think about him. An aha moment.
Why choked up?
I get choked up because what happens for me every single day is, and you hear from people every single day, you've got millions and millions of people that are inspired by, empowered by, impacted by your content. There are people out there that use your work as a lifeline, and it is humbling. And what I am really present to in the work that I'm putting out, in the stuff that I'm sharing, whether it's my failures or the things that I'm using that are helping me in my own struggles, is just how much people are holding themselves back and how much pain people feel, because most folks know what they dream about and what they want. And yet they're spending all of their time and energy arguing against what they want. And so you can have all these epiphanies. I hope that when somebody listens to our conversation and watches this, that they have a massive aha moment. But it's not going to mean shit if you don't take action and do something about it. The aha moment is the door that opens, but your new life does not begin unless you step through the door. And most people, and that's what was so kind of, the simple idea of high-fiving yourself, of encouraging yourself, of supporting yourself. Most people, when you have an aha moment and the door to your new life opens up, instead of going, I got this, let's go, and high-fiving yourself to step forward, most of us go, I don't know if I'm worth it. I don't know if right now is the right time to do this. I don't think I'm good enough. I've failed so many times, I can't go through that door. And that's the problem I want to attack right now. That there is somewhere in your life that you know what you want. You can feel it pulling you. And you are actively arguing against it. You're bringing yourself down. You're beating yourself out. Like, people will cheer for you and me. They won't cheer for themselves. I'm the same way. And so this Uber driver, the story that you're talking about, I get into the car and we start driving, and I'm on the phone as we're driving, and I'm having a conversation with somebody about this daytime talk show that I launched, which was a dream with Sony Pictures Television, and then was promptly fired after season 1. It was a huge failure because we didn't make it to season 2. Huge failure in real world terms. Right. Massive success when it comes to the timeline of my life. And so I'm talking to this person about the talk show. I hang up the phone and this Uber driver comes alive. He's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're in my cab. And I'm like, why? And he says, because I want to talk to you about something. I think you can help me. And I'm like, great, how can I help you? And he says, I have a dream of being a Oscar-winning actor and creating opportunities for other Black and Latino men to do the same in acting. And I'm like, freaking fantastic. What the f*** are you doing in Dallas? Right? You know, the guy's 25. And so I go, you know, the game is in New York and LA. I mean, sure, you can act, you can write stuff, you can be here in Dallas, but why are you not in LA? Why are you not in New York? And he's like, you're right. I need to move to LA. I'm like, why not? And he says, I have $700 in my bank account. And I'm like, that's freaking fantastic. You have $700 in a car? Dude, drop me off and get driving. What are you waiting for? And so we have this whole conversation, and I write about it in this book, where I am actively arguing for his dream, and he is actively arguing against his dream. And what is so sad is throughout this conversation, Tom, he's like, you're right. $700 could get me there. You're right. I am only 25. You're right. If I keep thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking about what I want to be doing, I'm not only going to drive in circles, my whole life is going to spin in circles as I think about what I want and I don't do shit about it. And then you are going to find yourself not at 25, but at 45 or 65, and you're going to be so filled with regret that you never put a bet on yourself. And so this conversation ends with him declaring that he's going to go to California and me giving him a bunch of tools that I talk about in this book. And the point of the story is, does he move or not? I don't know. The point of the story is, it's so easy to see what somebody else should do. It's so easy to cheer for somebody else. We all do that, right? We cheer for our favorite sports teams. We follow our favorite influencers and authors. We plan birthday parties for our friends. We take on extra work from our colleagues. We support everyone around us. We do not know how to do it for ourselves.
You need that instinct for meaning too. So, and we should get this real straight. Why do you need it? Well, you need it because life is really, really difficult, right? I mean, people have a rough time of it. There's plenty of suffering in life, and everyone is going to encounter it, right? You learn this as a clinical psychologist, and you know this generally, unless you're an extraordinarily fortunate person. You don't have to talk to someone for very long and really talk to them and get beneath the surface until you find, there's a tragedy or 2 or 3 or 10 lurking not very far beneath the surface. Someone in the family is very ill. There's a childhood history of extreme pathology, alcoholism somewhere in the family, maybe a touch of insanity. Someone has cancer, an older relative is dying. There's financial trouble. There's economic trouble. There's marital trouble. It's like life is trouble. And now, that doesn't mean it's all trouble, but man, it's trouble. And sometimes it's a lot of trouble. And sometimes it's so much trouble that you can barely stand it. And you see that because people get depressed and they commit suicide. And the reason they do that is because they think not being is better than being. And that's quite the decision, So, and it's not that uncommon among people who are depressed. And so it's a very important thing to consider. And it isn't just a matter of depression and suicide. That's bad enough. But, if you're unhappy because your suffering has pushed you past the point of your ability to cope, then there's all sorts of other things that can happen to you that aren't directed towards you. You can become cynical, and you can become bitter, and you can become cruel, and you can become narcissistic and deceitful and arrogant, and it's like everything's for you. And then you're out for revenge. That's a nice one. I don't know against who, but maybe everyone. Maybe even including you, because you're not happy about the role you've played in generating your own misery. I mean, there's a lot of darkness underneath the suffering. And so, and that's an ever-present existential danger for human beings. We're aware of the future, we're aware of our fragility, we're aware of our mortality. It's something that makes us truly unique, truly conscious in a way that no other creature is, and capable of things that no other creature can do, but also bearing an unbelievably heavy existential load. We're the only creatures that have to always contend with the fact that we're finite and that everyone we know is in the same position, that allied with the suffering. And so that's there all the time. And even in the brightest moments, in some sense, in Renaissance paintings, in still lifes, they used to put a memento mori often in the still life, like a skull somewhere in the corner, or sometimes in a very strange perspective, so that you could only see the skull if you were standing like right beside the painting instead of dead on. But the idea was to always remember, that everything that exists is tainted or touched with the taint of mortality. And that's rough, but there's some useful things in it. It keeps you awake, and it keeps you focused if you're careful. But it also does indicate to you, if you think about it, the necessity of having a meaning in your life. Because if it's true intrinsically that life has this unbearable element of suffering, which seems to be completely in what would you say, indisputable as far as I'm concerned, and it's worse than that too, because it's not just suffering, it's suffering contaminated with malevolence, right? It's bad enough to have something bad happen to you, and it's likely that that'll happen, but it's even worse for you to do it to yourself and to know that you did it. That's rough. And it's also extraordinarily rough to be betrayed by someone else, or tyrannized by your own culture. And that's not just suffering, that's like unnecessary and pointless suffering that's been directed at you by something that wants that to happen. And so both of those are very, very powerful, let's say, archetypal forces, suffering and malevolence, and we have to deal with them at every level of reality. And you need something to push back against that. It's not optional, if that's the default position, and I think it's the default position. Like, a meaningless life isn't meaningless. It's suffering and malevolence. That's not good. And if that's acted out, that's the other thing. If that's acted out, and I've read the accounts and the actions of people who've taken a very vicious turn into the darkest parts of the underworld, consequence of their resentment and their malevolence, and then their desire to make everything in the world suffer for the outrage of its existence, man. I mean, that's how we turn things into hell. If you want to know why totalitarian states take the brutal twists they take, and why people are motivated to do the absolutely terrible things that they do, well, that's why, is that the suffering and the malevolence that's intrinsic to life overwhelms them, and they turn in a very bad direction, and then they make everything that's already bad way worse, and we're very, very inventive at such things. And so that's not good, unless that's the path you want. That's a bad idea. You need an alternative, and that's meaning.
You wanted to be a professional baseball player, is that right?
Yeah.
But then you got an injury.
I did.
Similar to me. So you never made it to the big leagues, or did you play minor league for a little bit?
I did, yeah, and I played Division I college baseball too. Yeah, I, like every guy, like you and I talked about this last time, it's always our injuries that ended our careers. It probably put me into a premature place where I was going anyways. I don't know that I was
You weren't going to be in the bigs for...
I wasn't. I played enough baseball with guys who ended up in the big leagues to know my limitations.
Yeah.
And so, like anything in life, things happen for you, not to you. That injury happened for me. It certainly didn't seem like it at the time, but it got me out of that and into something like what we're talking about now that completely changed my life. So I wanted to be an athlete for sure all my life.
All your life.
That was my mask.
And then when then when it ended, your identity was like, who am I, right?
Yes, lost. Yeah, like a lot. You and I were just talking this before we went on.
Yeah.
You know, our professional athlete friends were their career changes. I went into like anybody, like whatever your dream is, when the first one ends, it doesn't happen, whether that be a relationship, it could be your marriage, it ends. It was a dream, right? Or a business venture or a sport. I went into a pretty good depression. And
how old were you at the time?
21, 22. Yeah. And I ended up, it's because people always see the after, like the house or whatever, houses or whatever the material things are. But I ended up bad, man. I ended up depressed. I ended up moving back at home with my parents. I was living in the same, I remember I was sleeping in the same bed I grew up in with the same teddy bear, the same posters on the walls, like going back in time, like 6 years, I'm back where I was, totally unemployed. And couldn't find work, didn't have the motivation to get up and find a job, just sort of eating out of their fridge and laying around all day. So that's where I was many, many years ago after baseball. And when you realize things in your life happen for you truly, especially in hindsight, everybody knows it in hindsight, right? If you look back at any disaster, tragedy, most people look back 5-10 years later, they go, that happened for me. That was actually a good thing. And so I was unemployed. I couldn't find a job. And my old man, my dad, was the best dad role model you could ever have in your life. Hardworking man, good man. He's a better man than me, has more integrity than me. He's the best man I've ever known. But when I was growing up, my dad had a drinking problem. And so my dad had gotten sober recently, and he was going to these meetings. And he comes home from one of his meetings and says, there's a guy at my meeting who can get you a job. It's right down the street in San Dimas. You're going to be working with kids. Doesn't pay anything at $6 an hour, but you're going to get this damn job. So show up there tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., ask for Tim. So I drive down there. It's a place called McKinley Home for Boys. Little did I know that would alter my entire life. That was the most significant thing that happened to me. And so I walk in there. I said, I'm Ed Milet. I'm here for the job. They're like, what job? I'm like, I don't know. Just my dad told me to show up here.
Yeah.
And I need to ask for Tim. They're like, we have no idea who the hell Tim is. What's his last name? I said, I don't know his last name. And they're like, so you showed up for a job that you don't know what it is and you don't know who it is that's hiring you. I'm like, here's what I know. He's an alcoholic. I'm like, oh, Tim.
That's him.
Yeah, we know that Tim. And so they bring me to the guy and he says, you're hired. Let's go. Like literally shakes my hand and you're hired. And he introduces me to these 8 boys that were my boys. They were 7, 8, and 9 years old. And basically I lived with these boys, these precious boys. And we ended up adding a few more. My boys were all wards of the court. They were all molested by family or parents were in prison. And so they had no family. And so my whole life changed. All of a sudden, I'm this 22-year-old guy. These guys become my sons.
Wow.
And I did holidays with them. I did birthdays with them. I lived with them.
Literally in a home or like a boarding dorm?
McKinley is a massive campus full of children that have been displaced from their homes that live in individual like cottages.
Like a foster care facility.
Massive though.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. All boys. It's in San Dimas here. And
wow.
It just altered my life, man, because I'd been an athlete, had a huge ego, had that mask. I wanted to compete. I wanted to win. I wanted attention. I wanted recognition. First time literally in my life I went, wow, I love helping people. I love making a difference. And my boys were just come from horrendous situations. And so I always say this all the time, and I have those eyes too, you have them. I think sometimes kids who grow up with some dysfunction, they just have different eyes.
Yeah.
They just have these eyes these boys all were different, but they had that same eyes. They're just like, man, love me, believe in me, care about me. And I had those eyes because I grew up in an alcoholic family and my whole life changed. I just went, wow, I actually love helping people and being involved in people's lives. I didn't know that because everything was, you're great. You know what it is when you're an athlete, right?
Sure.
Everything's about you. You're amazing. Free dinners, free this. You're a stud. All of a sudden, I wasn't a stud. And all of a sudden, it wasn't about me. It was about these 10 boys that ended up being 10 of them. And it just altered my life, man. And so after that, I ran into the financial business that I ended up in. But I would have completely flunked out of that financial business had I not been with my boys for those years. And I was there for 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah, man.
Like 8 hours a day type of thing? Or
sometimes more, sometimes 16, 18. I think about, I'm not kidding you, I think about my boys and my experience there. 2 of them are still very close with me. Every day, there's a moment where I reflect on that. It altered me completely. Like what I wanted to do. I always wanted to be famous and rich and successful. And now I just wanted to serve.
Yeah.
I wanted to help. Little did I find out I could get rich and famous and all that other stuff I thought I wanted through serving people.
Ultimately, I really believe that probably the most sacred thing in our lives that we can give another human being besides our love is our labor. You think about it, your labor is your energy, it's your time, it's your emotion, it's your intellect, it's your spirit to some extent. And if you can find a way where what you do for a living activates that sense of what you're made for, then work is not work, whether you be in Fiji or whether you be in an environment that might seem less exciting and promising in the moment. And trust me, I worked in plenty of those too. But with the same level of excitement and passion, because I found what turns me on, that makes me feel alive, makes me feel like I'm doing something that's worthwhile. And on Labor Day, I think a lot of people, it's just a holiday to get away and take time off of labor. And my hope is to trigger you to think about, how could you turn your labor into your love? I think it was Mark Twain who said, when your vocation becomes your vacation, that's when life becomes truly magnificent. And I'm privileged enough to have that, but I pursued it. And one of the secrets that I found, and I know you know this in your soul, is that we all know if you're going to be masterful at something, you don't show up, as the best in the world at something. You don't show up in environments that you want to be in. You get there because you did things for thousands and thousands of hours. Most of you know the concept of mastery taking 10,000 hours. That's an arbitrary number, but I'm sure you've heard about it. You want to get really good at something, it's 10,000 hours, because when you do something enough, with enough intensity, enough intention to constantly get better, when your labor is your love, and where your labor is something you have to always get better at, then usually what happens is you get these insights that allow you to serve more. But I also think that labor, we're talking about this weekend, what makes people fulfilled by their labor is their motives for it. If your motive is just to make money or just to pay your bills or just to get rich or whatever you think that's going to be, those people never really are fulfilled even if they make the money. The most fulfilled human beings in my experience, and I've had the privilege of working with literally 4 million people from 125 countries now around the world, the people that are most alive, regardless of the economics, are people that have found something that they really feel the motive is more than just themselves. We all know what it feels like when you're trying to do for something for someone you love, and you're not doing it as a trade, you're not trying to get something back, you're just doing it because it's what you're made for. And I always tell people motive does matter. That if you're just doing something for yourself, there's nothing wrong with that, because life supports whatever else supports life. If you're part of life and you're trying to do something that's going to make your life better, I think the universe, God, whatever proper term for you, whatever your belief system is, infinite intelligence gets connected to you and it gives you insights. But I think if you're trying to serve more than yourself, more life than just you, when things support more of life shows up to support you. And that might sound kind of airy-fairy, but it's my experience. When you're trying to support your family, when suddenly I had 4 kids, 3 of them overnight, my life changed, my intellect changed, my abilities changed, because I was trying to serve something more than just me. When I started really focusing on how to serve a community and then a country and then humanity, as corny as it may sound, you get insights you won't get when you're just trying to somehow, make your labor happen or get the job done. So labor could be love, and it isn't for most people. Most people, I think, are unhappy in their life because they look at labor as work. They look at it as, why should I have to effort so much? And in my experience, effort is the reward. If you are doing something you love, it's there. So if you don't have it, you might say, Tony, that's all wonderful. You're in Fiji and you do what you love and I don't have that. Thanks so much for giving me the lecture. I'm not coming from that place. I'm coming from the place of saying you can discover something that you're really passionate about, but in order to do it, you got to get out of the story of what you can't do and you got to put yourself on the line.
Your challenges don't only make you stronger, they allow you to serve better. I think the default answer for a lot of people is that your challenges make you stronger. Your challenges will, to grow muscle, you have to break your muscle first. And all of these obstacles that are put in your way allow you to have a better life. They're making you stronger. They're making you more powerful. And that's all true, yes. And the thing that helps me the most is just tying it back to service. Because I think humans are built to serve. You are built to serve. When you can connect the challenge that you're going through as something that's then going to inspire and help other people, at least for me, it always gives me a lot more strength and a lot more courage to do the thing that I need to do, as opposed to it just being about me getting stronger. I find a lot of times me getting stronger is not enough. It's not enough of a reason compared to it's going to help somebody else as well. So, if that's you, hope this video helps you as well. So I think about when I was doing my tour 2019 and I broke my neck. It was one of the most challenging times in my life, in that it's already hard enough. I'm already, on the road. We're quarter of the year on the road, 90 straight days, me, Nina, my cameraman, Danny. And there were a lot of challenges in making that whole tour happen, and new city every 4 days, and all of the stuff that goes into, it was my first ever tour. And then I broke my neck 2/3 of the way through. So as if things weren't hard enough, now I break my neck. I can't drive anymore. I'm in insane amounts of pain. I have a concussion, and I'm still making videos. I struggled with the decision. This is a real decision. Do I quit the tour or not? Do I quit the tour? Do I go home? There's still another month on the road. It's not just me, it's also Nina, who has to do a lot more work now. She's got to drive this giant Suburban across the country. Danny, the camera guy, has to do a lot more work. It's a lot of stress. I'm basically out of commission, and all I could do was talk, which is great for speaking, but sucks for everything else. So what do? The thing that made me want to at least try to keep going, I didn't know that I would go for another month, but I thought, let's just do the next city. Let's just do the next city. Let's go to Kansas City. Kansas City was the next stop. Let's go to Kansas City and see what happens. What got me through it was thinking about somebody in the audience, thinking about one of you guys who was struggling with something physically. Up until that point, I dealt with a lot of mental issues, mindset issues, things like believing you're not good enough, lack of self-worth, you don't have a message to share, imposter syndrome, all of those things, right? Even here, we're filming, we're about to go through a car wash. We're next, so we're probably gonna get some crazy noise. I have to talk loud. I used to be so worried about that stuff that I wouldn't film. Like, I can't film going to a car wash, the noise, whatever. Now I look at it as opportunities. Like, let's go. Like, that's not a good enough reason. Maybe the video quality sucks. I hope not. Maybe you can't hear me loud enough. I hope not. But not letting those things get in your way, because that stuff happens all the time. Like, that stuff happens all the time. And look, we're next. You guys can see it says car wash. We're next, depending on how long that guy ahead of us takes. You might see it in this video. I dealt with a lot of those mindset issues, those lack of belief issues, those worthiness issues, and I battled them, and I've been through them, and have a few lessons to share. And over the years of me trialing and failing, and 20 plus years of doing this, my hope is to make the path a little bit easier for you, so that you don't have to struggle as much as I did. The path can be a little bit sooner, a little bit faster, a little bit less painful, right? But I'd never been through anything really physical. I've broken my toe. I remember breaking my toe and then going for a run, and I was doing an Instagram live at the time. It was like a light run, fast jog, and my toe was hurting so much, and I just kept powering through it. Then later realized I broke my toe. But that's not really anything major, right? For somebody who's going through something physical and major, it's like, you broke your toe. Come on, it's not a big deal. And so I never felt like I could serve or push people who had a physical limitation, had a physical kind of injury, because I'd never gone through it, and I don't feel right pushing people on things that I haven't experienced in some form myself, right? So here I am, 2019, now I break my neck. Now I have a concussion. I'm in more pain than I've ever been in my life. Concussion, if you haven't been through it, is just devastating, because it's not just the physical pain of not being able to move your body and, neck, and potential having spinal surgery, which is crazy scary, but also not being able to think clearly. For me, I value that a lot. Like, I love thinking, I love problem solving, and not being able to think clearly and just be a vegetable on the couch all day was devastating. So getting through that, and then deciding I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna at least try for the next stop in Kansas City. Why? Because if I can get through this, yes, it's a challenge that will teach me and make me stronger, and I have a lesson that I can learn from it. But if I can get through this, then hopefully it can serve as an inspiration for other people who are going through something physical as well. That it's not just a mindset issue, but they have physical limitations. The first night in a hospital, I was, a train wreck. Then I came home and to our Airbnb, they let me out of the hospital. And I remember two specific moments. One, trying to get into the car. So we're at the hospital, I get discharged, I'm excited, go home, fresh air, oh my gosh, it's amazing. And I have this neck brace on, I can't move, I have very low flexibility, and I'm now the passenger. I'm not allowed to drive because I can't turn my head. So Nina has to drive. And I'm in the parking lot of the hospital, and I'm trying to get into the passenger side. I'm in the passenger seat right now in my car. I'm trying to get into the passenger side of the car, and I can't. And it hurts too much. And I get to the point where I have one foot in the car and one foot out of the car. And it's a Suburban, so it's this giant step up to get in. And I remember I was in so much pain that I couldn't go forward into the car. I didn't have the strength. And every time I lifted off, it killed everything in my body. The whole, all my back up into my neck, everything was in massive pain. But I also couldn't get back down, because that was hurting too much too. So I was stuck in this limbo of I can't go forward, I can't go back. Nina's trying to, push me up to get me in. And then I remember just crying. I'm in the parking lot of we're going to the car wash. I'm in the parking lot. I'm gonna have to talk louder. I'm in the parking lot of the hospital, and I'm crying out of frustration. And I can't remember the last time I was that frustrated that I just broke down and cried. And I didn't know what to do next. Everything hurt. I can't move forward. I can't move backwards. I'm just overwhelmed by pain and frustration, and I'm crying in the parking lot of the hospital. Eventually, Nina just pushes me in. One hand on each butt cheek, and in you go. And I got in, and it hurt, but then I was in. And that was just an overwhelming moment. And then I remember that night. Here we go, car wash. That night, I can't sleep. It's terrible. I've got, neck brace on. I'm not used to sleeping with it. I'm in massive pain, and it's 3 a.m, and I have to go to the bathroom. And so I'm sitting, I can get myself to sit up. They taught me in the hospital how to push yourself from lying down to sitting up. Ooh, look at the foam. Look at that, guys. How to go from lying down to sitting up without hurting yourself too much, minimizing the pain as much as possible. So they taught me how to do that. So 3 a.m, I have to go to the bathroom. I get up, I push myself into the seating position. I'm starting to feel dizzy. I have a concussion, right? I'm starting to feel dizzy. I can't see anything because it's really dark. And I'm worried that if I stand up, I might fall over. How I got the concussion was I fainted. I fainted, hit my head on the wall, and then cracked the back of my neck open. I'm worried that if I stand up, I might faint and I might fall over again. And Nina's asleep next to me. Look at this. Were you sleeping on the floor? Nina's joining in. Nina,
Yeah.
you were on the bed.
I was sleeping on the floor.
Were you on the floor?
That will wake you up.
She was afraid she was gonna wake me up. Bless Nina's heart. She had no sleep during this whole time too, right? So she's asleep. It's 3 a.m, and I don't want to wake her up. One, because I feel bad for her because she hasn't slept at all, but also I feel helpless. I feel so helpless that I'm in all this pain, and I can't even go to the bathroom by myself. I need help to go to the bathroom. I felt so helpless, and I said it's not worth it for me to get up and potentially, if I fall, that's no bueno, right? I'm back to the hospital probably if I fall. So I wake up Nina, and it may not seem like a big deal, but it felt like a big deal. I felt just helpless. And so I woke her up. She helped me go to the bathroom, and I did my business and went back to sleep. But those two moments in particular were the most painful moments of that whole experience. It's the best. And the thing that got me through it, the thing that gave me the motivation, was that hopefully somebody else who's going through some kind of painful moment right now will be able to resonate with this and be inspired by this. Whether it's actually true or not, it was a story that I was telling myself. I told myself somebody's going to be inspired by this. And I still made videos, and my next round of videos, I couldn't do the whole thing. So Nina did some of it, I did some of it. And I'm sitting there, I'm now overweight because I haven't been able to work out. I haven't been eating as clean as I was normally. I got a giant scab. If you look at some of those old videos, I had this huge scab on my forehead. Again, normally like, oh my gosh, I got this giant scab on my, you might be worried about a little pimple. I got this giant scab coming down my forehead. I look like Harry Potter. The thing that gets me through it is other people who have some kind of issue, like they're having a bad hair day or a pimple on their face, might be inspired by this to go and take action. What? Nina has a pimple on her. You want to show everybody your pimple on your forehead? Again, whether it's true or not, it was a story that I was telling myself that somebody else is going to be inspired by this, and it's going to allow them to go and do their thing. Now, fast forward, we make the videos, we release the videos. A lot of people were inspired by it. A lot of people did message me, DM me, email me, tell me in future interviews, you know, I was telling myself I couldn't do this because of X, because I had a headache. And here you are doing your videos with a concussion, giant scab on your face, neck brace, in massive pain, breaking your neck. And I told myself, what? I have no excuse. I'm going to go do my thing because Evan did his thing. But again, whether it was true or not, the thing that got me to get through the challenge in a way that I'm proud of myself for was the connection to service. That it's not just here to make me stronger, which it did. It made me incredibly, like, I can't believe I did that. That guy is still in me, that I could go and do that again. Hopefully don't break my neck again, but I could do that. It made me stronger, but even more valuable is me feeling like this is gonna mean something to somebody else. So whatever challenge you're going through, understand that yes, you know, your purpose comes from your pain. This will make you a better person. But the thing that will help you get through it, at least from my experience, is connecting to somebody else. That there are tons of people out there who are also struggling with the same thing that you are struggling with right now. And when you get through it, your story will be an inspiration for them. Your journey through it will motivate them to have the courage to show up for their lives as well. And when you can actually connect it to service, I think everything is better. You are built to serve. We made it through the car wash. Good job, Nina. Hopefully that you heard all that stuff and it was valuable and life-changing. And if not, I love you anyway. Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome.
If you want the advice to remember when times get tough, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
The key is to tie your self-worth to the effort, to trying. And if you do that well, you'll win beyond your wildest imaginations. So let's use me as an example. Look at this video. 2 minutes before getting on and making this video, I'm nervous.